Appreciate being here. We've just been like zoomed out to like this like U.S. Economic history for the last 100 years. I'm gonna like zoom in as much, like it's gonna get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So sorry about that. It won't be as exciting. I'm also gonna, I guess we're both breaking with it. There's not gonna be no data in this at all. This is a theory paper. And it's joint with my colleague Viola Judah from the Harris School and Haifeng Zhu from the University of Chicago Department of Computer Science. So here's the thing that got us thinking about this, I guess, is if you kind of follow public discourse about AI and LLM, generative AI in particular, or if you listen to, as I do, a bunch of like tech podcasts and the like, you hear like constant hand-wringing that generative AI is going to destroy the creator economy. That if you're the kind of person who makes web content or even like makes movies, if you think about the writer's strike or whatever, that AI is coming for your job, that it's a substitute for labor, and that in particular there's this kind of, but there's a second layer that the kind of the tech discourse has gone towards, which is this kind of, what I think of as this self-defeating AI problem, which is like the generative AIs need training data, they're gonna put all the creators out of business, then there'll be nothing to train on, and then we won't have any content at all, and then as you see from the headlines, the internet will be broken and everything will be terrible because we'll all be reading crappy AI novels for the rest of our lives. So anyway, that's an interesting claim. People seem worried about it, and none of those stories that, as I hear them play out, people tell a pretty detailed story, but none of them talk about prices when they talk about it, and I just don't see how you can think this through without prices. So this is also going to be a departure for me in that there's going to be no politics or political economy, and this is like a straight price theory paper. It's a very strange paper for me to be writing, but there it is. So we wanted to just think about this story about the idea of self-defeating AI and the effect of the emergence of generative AI on the content creator economy in a model that had some prices and would help us think it through. So that's what I'm going to try and do quickly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to write down a model of content, of producers of content and consumers of content. We want to have a model that has natural pre-AI innovation going on in it. So we're going to do that by modeling consumers as getting bored over time. Right? If you've been like reading Victorian novels for a while, you get bored with Victorian novels, and at some point you'd like modernist novels. So we're going to have like a built-in boredom that's going to lead producers to want to be willing to pay some fixed costs to innovate over time endogenously. Then we're going to introduce AI into that economy, an AI that can train on previously generated content and produce a substitute good of a sort, potentially at lower quality, but at zero marginal cost is the key thing. And we're going to ask, what does that do to incentives for creators to innovate? We're also going to ask a bunch of questions about consumer welfare and the like, but I'm going to focus on innovation today. Okay, so that's the plan. I'm going to jump right to the model. And I'm going to try and do as few details as possible and just kind of provide an overview of what results look like. Okay, so here's the model. We're going to keep it super simple. We're going to think about a model that just has dynamics in the sense of two periods. For now, there's going to be two markets, so just think of like, if you want to fix ideas, think about the market for Victorian novels and the market for modernist novels or something. We're going to have a unit mass of producers, a unit mass of consumers. Human producers each produce, in some market, each produce some good that consumers can consume. AI in a market also can produce a good in that market that's kind of a substitute, but potentially a lower quality substitute, but at zero marginal cost. The quality of the AI good in market M is increasing in the amount of human-produced good in that market from before. Okay, so in market one, the quality of the AI-produced thing in period two depends on how much human-produced stuff there was in market one. That's the training data. Okay, that's the basic idea of the model. Timeline is super simple and what you'd expect. Period one, we're just going to have one market, so there's just Victorian novels because it's the Victorian period, and humans are producing it, consumers are consuming it, prices are clearing the market, and then in period two, we go into a world in which there's some training data, AI exists, producers decide to stay in market one, innovate into market two at some cost, or exit the market entirely if there's not enough rent in the market. Consumers decide how much of the good in market one, the good in market two, and the AI good to produce. Prices clear the market, etc. Okay, so it's just like, and this is going to be like really like a kind of a price theoretic approach to equilibrium. I'm going to focus entirely on period 2 today. So I'm just going to take market period 1 as a thing happens. It looks like supply and demand, and I'm not going to worry about it today. It happened, and we're going to focus on period 2 for limited time, and because it's where all the interesting things happen. Okay? So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on utility functions because we've built in some stuff into the utility functions that do a lot of work. Not into the producer's payoff, which is just exactly what you'd expect. Their revenue is price times the amount of stuff they sell. They have they have costs of production, and if they innovate into market 2, they pay a fixed cost of doing so. Consumers are a little more complicated. Period 1, consumers are again exactly what you'd think. They get some utility from consuming. They have to pay. Their payoffs are linear in money, so they have to pay the price for good 1 times the amount that they decide to consume. Fine. But period 2 is more complicated, so let me walk you through that. Okay. This is not my updated slide, so let me remind myself what's going on here, because this is not the slide I expected to see. Okay, so we're going to consider 2 different versions of the model. Okay, one where the good that AI produces is a perfect substitute for the good that humans produce, and the other where it's kind of an independent good. Okay, so here's the model with substitutes. So again, we've just got consumption, right? So this is perfect substitutes. Users are consuming some human-produced good in market 1, some human-produced good in market 2, and some AI good. Okay, and then there's some other stuff going on, so let me walk you through that. So this is just, again, utility from consumption. Perfect substitutes because they're just additive inside the consumption function, right? Okay, but we have this model of boredom. Okay, so that's thing 1. So this is the amount of good 1 that I consumed in period 1. This is an increasing function, and I've gotten just kind of bored, right, of reading Victorian novels. So my utility from reading Victorian novels in the second period it's decreasing because there's a minus sign there in the amount of Victorian novels I read yesterday. Okay, so I'm getting bored over time, and that's going to create a natural incentive for producers to innovate. Okay, so that's part 1 of my, right? So the marginal benefit of consuming Victorian novels is decreasing in the amount of Victorian novels I consumed yesterday. And then we also have, so the boredom also affects the AI good in market 1, right? So AI is also writing some in the modern period, AI is writing some Victorian novels for us, and I'm bored of those too. And in addition, the AI is lower quality, okay? And this is, so Q here is like a function. It should have a x1 in it also. So this is also an increasing function of x1, just like alpha. So the more Victorian novels were written yesterday, the more training data there is, the higher the quality of the AI good. Okay? And so my enjoyment of AI goods is decreasing in boredom. It's also lower when it's lower quality. And we're going to just think about like exogenous shocks, which might, like, to the quality of AI, which might look like there's more training data, or it might look like a technical improvement in the quality of AI. So fix the amount of data, we can just do better stuff with it. And we're going to be agnostic about those 2 things. Does that make sense with respect to the payoff function? And then you've got to pay for the stuff you consume always. Okay? So we have this built-in model of boredom, which is going to give us just kind of natural innovation. And then we will also think about a version of the model where instead of the 2 goods being perfect substitutes for us, market 1 and market 2, so instead of Victorian novels and modernist novels being perfect substitutes, we're going to think about a model where market 2 might be like an independent good. So one is like novels, and the other is maybe watching movies, and you have different time, like you have an amount of time you're willing to devote to reading and an amount of time you're willing to devote to watching movies, and those are kind of different things. Okay, so here, right, so here market 2 is separable from market 1. We're going to think about those 2 models separately and ask about the effect of AI and innovation in each of those 2 worlds. Those are just 2 different kinds of worlds. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. As I said, I'm going to start by thinking about the market equilibrium without AI in period 2. I'm going to ignore period 1. I'm just going to take it as a fact about a thing that already happened. And so I'm going to think about market equilibrium without AI, and then I'm going to ask what happens to that equilibrium when I introduce AI. Okay? I'm going to need 2 quantities from the market 1 analysis that I'm not showing you. One is just the equilibrium amount of boredom, right? So we did produce some amount in market 1, and that led to some equilibrium amount of boredom, and the equilibrium quality of AI. Okay, so now let me walk you through what equilibrium looks like. So here's the model with substitute goods. And let me just talk you through the logic. I'm going to do as little math as is humanly possible. So first of all, so here's the basic logic.
in a world in which in which market one and market two are perfect substitutes, and consumers are consuming both of them, they're consuming Victorian novels and modernist novels, it must be that consumers are indifferent as between those two, right? Otherwise they go to a corner solution. And that locks in their relative prices, right? So locks in their relative prices where the price of modernist novels can be higher than the price of Victorian novels in an amount that exactly offsets the boredom with Victorian novels. Okay, so the fact that consumers are consuming both goods when they're perfect substitutes locks in their relative prices. Now I also need producers to be willing to produce in both markets, right? And notice, of course, producers have to pay a fixed cost to go into market two. So I'm going to need also producers to be indifferent as between the two if I'm going to have producers in both markets. Right, so what does that look like? Well, it looks like, right, so here's the price in market one, and we have a locked-in price in market two as a function of market one, but you have to bear some fixed costs. So because of convexity, profits for the producers are rising faster in prices in market two, but they're bearing these costs, and so these cross at one point, right? So the fact that producers are also indifferent and the relative prices are locked in locks in an actual market equilibrium price. Okay, so I'm going to have a price in market one, price in market two. It's locked in by the combination of consumer and producer indifference. Now, I haven't yet cleared my market because I don't know if supply equals demand in those two markets. I just know that everybody's indifferent. But notice prices are higher in market two, which means a producer in market two produces more stuff than a producer in market one because they're getting more revenue per stuff they've produced. And so the way I clear the market now is, since producers are indifferent, I can shift producers between market one and market two until I get the right amount of production to meet total demand. Okay? So the market's going to clear by adjusting the number of producers who are in each market. And that's just going to look like this. As I move producers to market one, total production is going down because producers in market one are making less revenue per product, and so they're producing less stuff. Total demand, fixing the prices, is just constant in the number of producers in market one, and so we just got to move the mix of producers between market one and market two so that we get a market clearing. Okay, so that's what equilibrium looks like. We're going to get some level of innovation, and it's going to be locked in. Just to make sure we understand what's going on, okay, let's imagine now a shock to the cost of innovation, and let me walk you through what would happen. Okay, so suppose the cost of inventing essentially modernist novels goes up, right? Of learning to write a modernist novel, I guess, right? So what happens? The costs go up of going into market two. So now producers at the given prices we were at, the producers all prefer to stay in market one, yeah? Because it got more expensive to go to market two. So we got to restore producer indifference, and remember, from this picture, the way you do that, right, so we've shifted from here, we've made K bigger, so essentially we've shifted down this line. The way you do that is you raise prices, right, because raising prices relatively favors market two. Okay, so we did this shock to the price of going into market two. In order to restore producer indifference, we got to raise prices across the board. Okay, we got to raise prices in market one and market two in lockstep because of consumer indifference. But now, if we keep the same number of people in market one and market two, but we've got prices higher, everyone's producing more, now supply exceeds demand, right? So my market's not clearing. So I got to move some producers back over to market one. They're indifferent now because I've raised prices, but I've kept them in lockstep. Yeah, and so supply exceeded demand, I got to move some producers towards market one. So I increase, that shouldn't be surprising, but that's the logic of the equilibrium. I increase the cost of going to market two, I got to raise prices to restore indifference, and then that makes supply exceed demand, so I got to move producers back over to writing Victorian novels to restore equilibrium. Okay? And so what that looks like, if we think about the cost of innovation on the x-axis here, and we think of, on this axis, the number of producers working in market two, which is a measure of the amount of innovation, at really low costs of innovation, cost of innovation, everyone's going to market two. At really high cost of innovation, everyone's staying in market one. And for moderate costs, we're getting some level of innovation, which is decreasing in the cost of doing it, which is, that's not deep, but that's just the structure of equilibrium. Does that make sense? And now we want to ask, what happens when I introduce AI to this market, okay? So I introduce AI. What's AI? AI is a substitute for either of these goods that's of lower quality, but can be produced at zero marginal cost, so sold for free, okay? So what happens? Well, if the quality is low, and in particular if the quality is low enough such that at a price of 0 for the AI good, you still prefer paying the equilibrium price for the human goods, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, it's just like this thing. I could read a crappy AI-generated novel, but it's really crappy. I don't want to do that. I just keep buying novels. But once the quality of the AI goes up high enough, and you're selling it for free, consumers like it better than paying for human-produced goods, right? So now it puts price pressure on human-produced goods, right? Because if I try and keep prices where they were to hold on to equilibrium, people prefer to read crappy AI novels because they're not that crappy, yeah? So what happens? If the quality is high enough, I have to lower the price in market 1 to compete with the AI good in market 1, yeah? There's all these AI Victorian novels, I got to lower the price of human novels. When I lower the price in market 1 to compete for consumers, now consumers like market 1 better than market 2. I got to lower the price in market 2 to compete for consumers also. But now I'm in trouble. Why am I in trouble? Because if I've lowered the prices in both, if again we go back to that picture, if I lower the prices in both, all of a sudden the producers all prefer market 1 to market 2. Right? Because lowering prices is good for the one that doesn't bear the fixed costs. Yeah, so now all of the producers prefer market 1 to market 2, and I am out of degrees of freedom. Right? I got no tools left to restore producer indifference because I can't change prices because I'm facing this price pressure from the AI. And so market 2 completely collapses here. Okay, and so equilibrium, once I have a high quality AI, is there is market 1 human production and market 1 AI production, and no one goes to market 2. There's 0 innovation, and it just shuts down that market. That's the world with substitutes. Okay, so moderately high quality AI kills innovation in this world. Okay, and that is kind of the self-defeating AI story. It's still good for consumer welfare, but that's the self-defeating AI story. Okay, we're going to keep producing some human stuff for a while. AI is going to get better and better dynamically, and eventually we're going to all be reading AI-generated Victorian novels. We will never get modernism. If instead, how am I on time? I'm out of time. Okay, let me tell you one sentence about independent goods. It's exactly the opposite with independent goods. So let me just say, independent goods, again, producers are locked in by indifference. Consumers are now consuming across them. It's a little bit more complicated what the structure of equilibrium looks like, but the takeaway here is what happens is high quality AI comes in, okay, and again it's putting price pressure. Okay, again, it's putting price pressure. And now, what happens? Well, I have a degree of freedom. The degree of freedom I have is consumers don't care in market 1 as between AI and low-priced human goods, but market 2 is a separate thing. And so what I can do to clear the market is I can move a bunch of producers out of market 1 into market 2. Okay? In market 1, we then clear the market by having people consume crappy AI, and then they go over to market 2 and buy high-quality human stuff, right? And so in a world where I have independent goods instead of substitute goods, I get exactly the opposite result, which is price pressure from AI makes people consume AI stuff in the original market and drives all the producers to innovate into the new market. Right? So exactly the opposite. And so whether you get the self-defeating AI problem or not really depends on the kind of good you're talking about. And so for substitute goods, we think the blogs are right and AI is going to kill innovation. And for independent markets, we think that price pressure from AI is going to drive kind of Schumpeterian innovation where humans are looking for rents, and so they try to avoid the AI. Okay, sorry for going over. We'll stop there. Oops, sorry. Looks like you were just sticking your pen.
I just was waiting for others. I absolutely love this paper. What's really cool are the plethora of anecdotes throughout economic history where automated goods become commodities and then folks look for higher quality customized or artisanal stuff. And yes, there are distributional consequences in the short run, but in terms of the use of human labor, it seems like it is in fact allocated to a higher value use, which is creativity, personalization, the human touch, empathy, stuff like that. I realize I'm being super banal and syrupy, but that is like the positive version of technological change that's very disruptive that people try to weave. One thing I would say is maybe you could endogenize the learning curve, because it seems like AI's learning curve would be zero, and that's a fixed cost, not a marginal cost. And for humans, it would still be steep for any good, whether there are substitutable goods or independent ones. And that could modify this syrupy story and lead to the bad story, maybe. But that's one thing you might think about.
Sure. All right, cool. I have one maybe fair question and one unfair question. So the fair one would be, it seems like this is a way that you could describe the optimal price to charge the AI for period one data. Right? It seems like this a good framework for setting up a policy planner's problem where they say, if I want to maximize innovation, what should I make the marginal cost of production for AI? The unfair question is, should we think of innovation as a revenue maximizing event? Like if movies are to be believed, then Facebook came because Mark Zuckerberg got dumped by a BU student in a bar, or like I doubt that David Foster Wallace was making revenue maximizing decisions to write Infinite Jest, to continue with the novel analogy. So I can imagine pushback fairly or unfairly that says this is not the framework for most innovation, especially in arts.
I really like the distinction between the two models, the one with independent goods and the one with perfect substitutes. And so I was wondering if it would be worth it, or maybe how the model would change if we introduce a taste for variety. Insofar as, like, for example, if we do that, then only like the most creative people will survive, and there will be like essentially self-selection into the market in the second period. And I mean, at least it would take at face value a little bit of monopolistic competition and stuff like that. We would like actually to have a taste for variety. So I've been wondering, as I was seeing this, if there is a condition under which, for example, AI could reduce the variety. Yeah.
Hi, very interesting models. I like the distinction. I was wondering, like, for me, in the long term, or like a few years after the AI is in the substitute market, the innovation will be back. So I wonder if you do this in many periods, then you will have innovation because the quality will be too low. So then you will still need that. So even the first story is not that negative, I think. At least that's what I will read from the presentation, yeah. Thank you.
Should I answer? Okay. Maybe I'll work backwards. So on that dynamic story, I do think that's interesting. We've thought about it some. So I think what happens, if you think about a dynamic story where it's going to keep going, first of all, the rents from innovation go down because like the dynamic rents are themselves going to be, or I should expect competition for modernist novels by the next year also. Now you can think about, we're going to innovate forever, right? And there's this kind of horse race between the effect of AI on your long run rents in the first market and your long run rents in the innovative market. We kind of think there's going to be a question there about like curvature, right? So like there's going to be like the level effect of AI will always be higher in the older market, but the marginal effects, it could be messy. And so we've started thinking about that, but my guess is it's messy. Thus the two-period model. Taste for variety, I mean, in some sense we have taste for variety. Like independent goods is taste for variety, right? In the sense that like that utility from consumption has diminishing marginal utility. And so when I make those additively separable, I'm saying like the marginal benefit of the first unit of the market of the modernist novel is way higher than whatever the next unit of the Victorian novel. And that's not true when they're perfect substitutes. So there is kind of a model of taste for variety there. And in that world, I mean, I guess the good news is taste for variety drives innovation. In a world with taste for variety, AI drives innovation. Okay, so on I'll take, okay, so on the price to charge AI, we haven't thought about it from the policymaker's perspective, but we have thought about like I think an interesting extension here, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to what happens, is like, think about a world where the AI owner wants to make money, right? They don't want to price AI goods because they're producing at zero marginal cost. What they want to do is sell subscriptions, right? They want to give consumers a fixed fee for buying access to the AI thing because they can produce at zero marginal cost. So the right way for them to revenue maximize the owner of the AI is to charge a subscription fee for joining the AI, and then you can have as much of it as you want. And in that world, the AI owner wants to subsidize content creation in the first period. Right? They want to pay producers to produce more content in the first period in order to make the AI higher quality, because that will increase the fees they can. And I think there's like an interesting market question there about like what is the subsidy going to look like from the AI? I don't want to be like overly bullish about tech companies, but in this world, the tech company that owns the AI will be paying the content producers in the first period to produce content to train the AI. They'll be buying the data from them essentially, but they'll be paying them to produce more. That will increase the fees they can charge, and then of course then they'll be using it to hold up those producers in the second period.
It's like Old Navy sponsoring a fashion show.
Yeah, it's like, or I mean, it's like, look, I mean, it's like, you know, like I think it's not crazy to think about like Facebook or Spotify paying producers to create content if they get to use the data for training data.
We're already seeing that with the lawsuits against the large companies, but there's settlements. They're establishing contracts.
So they're writing contracts with the New York Times or whatever to buy the content. Yeah. On the innovation as revenue maximization, I don't know. I mean, I think like there's an equilibrium story you can tell that like if you can't make a living doing it, even if you're a great artist, you might not do it, or you do less of it. I agree that like the great artist is not like, they're not quite the agent in my model, but maybe like the person who's inventing the new kind of TikTok video is the agent in my model. And maybe the social value of that is negative, I don't know. But I do think like there's something about like, can you make money at it that feels at least reasonable, like directionally. The AI learning curve we've also started to think about, and actually there's like new results like last week about, one of the things that started us writing this is like there's basically a phenomenological law in computer science about what the curvature of the AI learning curve from data looks like. And a question we asked our computer science co-author is like, that's from data, but that's not from a structural model. And is that also true about the shape of like non-data-based AI innovations, or do we know anything about that? And he's like, oh, nobody's asked that. And now all of a sudden, like this week, we have results on that. So I think like pushing this model where instead of like the kind of, you know, just monotonicity assumptions that economists like to make that we've made here, where you actually do a little bit more with, we know a fair bit about the physics of the structure of the AI learning curve, like potentially you can go a lot further because you can make some empirically grounded assumptions that would let you do some calculating that we haven't done yet. Thank you all.